Welcome back to Keeping Tabs. I'm your co-host, Zach Viscomi, here with Tabitha Height, where we bring you real talk, real help, and all about real estate. So in today's episode, we're going to do things a little bit different here. Obviously, when people think about real estate, they usually think about numbers, interest rates, square footage, all that kind of stuff. But anyone who knows, who've ever bought a home, sold a home, that's only part of the story, right? And so, Tab, I know you've walked through hundreds of homes. Some of those have been beautiful. Some of them were big, small, kind of all over the board. But what you've seen, I think, is what makes a house a home. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, a little bit more of, what really does make a house a home and how does that then impact the buyer, the seller, and everybody else. So really looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
Awesome. It's nice and toasty here in Pennsylvania. And, 'tis the season, which I love summer. So,
Me too.
now it's our peak season. I've been touring lots of homes. So hopefully I'll be able to shed some light on all the different types of home and what makes a house a home.
I'm going to put a little question on the shelf too, because I know like businesses all the time will like open their front doors in the summer and blast the AC and to kind of entice people to come in. I bet that's probably got something to do with houses too, right? But
Yes.
so, one of the things that obviously we're going to talk about, and let's sort of set the stage here a little bit, is this idea of the difference between a house and a home. And I think intrinsically we all have an idea of what that is. But, I'm curious for you, of somebody who's going through all these different homes over the years, have you noticed the distinction between what people call a house and then versus what they mean when they call it their home?
Well, I think when we're touring, and what I try to let my buyers know is that when we're touring houses, like, don't fall in love with this. This is not your home yet. I find a home is where you make memories and where you build a life. So when we're shopping, it's really we're shopping for a house. And whether or not you can make that a home over time, or maybe it's an instant home, who knows? But I do feel like it becomes a home once memories are made in it. And I also, warn clients, like, when we're out shopping, like, there's a lot of emotion that gets brought up, and someone might walk into a house and feel a connection, and then there's heartbreak if they can't get the home. So, you want to look at it for what it is, a building, right? That you can hopefully make great memories of, build a life, be in the community. But I think overall, when you're looking, you should be looking at the structure of what you're buying and try to think with your head and not your heart always when you're in that.
So it's kind of like you're buying a house and then you make it a home, right? But you've got to create a distinction in there in some sense.
Yeah, you do, because if you don't, you start to lose, you start to not think things through, maybe, if you start to have so much emotion into it. And you want to go into purchasing a home or a house with a clear mind and have a plan and a purpose, and make sure that you're doing the right things and not overlooking because you feel attached to it in an emotional sense.
I spent my entire career in sales, and one of the things that I've heard over and over again is people buy emotionally and then they justify it logically. And so I think part of your role, of obviously as a real estate agent, is making sure that like you stay aware of the emotions and you kind of allow space for that, but at the same time help them make logical decisions, right? And so I think that's really powerful and really important, because you can rush too quickly into something because you fall in love with it, I imagine.
Right.
So what are some of the little things like that you hear people say, or some examples or things that like kind of give you that distinction of like, they're not looking at this as just a transaction, right? It's a whole lot more than that. And do you have any examples of how that has played out?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I'm under contract right now with a property, and my buyers really want this property. They really like it. It's in a great location. We had an inspection and things start to come up on that. And so it's a real conversation about, I know how much you want this home. I know you want to be in a spot, but we have to talk about the things that came up on the inspection report and how, if we don't figure this out now, how that might put you in a position months from now that makes it's going to erase all these memories if you're not prepared financially for what could potentially come up later. So it's really talking to the clients when they're out shopping and making sure that they understand, like, I know that you want to hear you're under contract. Like, a lot of these buyers are just writing multiple offers, getting declined on offers, and they just sometimes, it's like, I just want to be under contract. I want a place to live. I need to get out of my rental. I'm moving into the state, and there's a need for a housing, but we can't overlook the need or want for other things financially that might occur that would put a buyer in a bad position months from now, So it's making sure when we're discussing all this, and there's so much excitement, and there's nothing better than calling a client at 11 o'clock at night if we're negotiating that late and saying you got the house, because like they're thinking, maybe I got it, maybe I didn't. They're sitting nervous. Did you hear anything yet? And there's nothing better than making the news to that client, you got the house that you put your offer on. There's also nothing worse than calling that client and saying you did not get the house. It's like, I always say, it's like breaking up with a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. You're like, no, I gotta make the dreaded call. I gotta tell. So that's not a great call either. But the excitement that buyers face, and I get it, like having pride and ownership of a property and building equity is so exciting, but you want to do it the right way. And I really do feel strongly that it becomes a home once you're there,
And making those memories. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's an important distinction, right? Like, it's like you buy a house, but you want a home, right? And so you can't really, as the buyer or even the seller, right? Like, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It's like hard to separate those two things, but like you really have to. And I think it's why it's so important to work with a real estate agent and somebody who can help keep those things in check and make sure that like you're making a good decision so that you really can make memories. Like you talked about being house poor before and some of these other things. And so I'm curious as we talk a little bit more about this, right? I'm sure there's times where people just walk into the house and it may even be the first one that they've walked into and they're just like, this is the one, right? Like this is the thing that I have. And so have you noticed, like, is it more about the features? Like what are the things that like stands out to buyers from the beginning that like makes them feel so connected to this house so quickly like that?
I think it's changed over time. I think I'm seeing less people walk in and being like, this is it, just because the cost of housing has gone up. And for many people, it's like, this is it. This is what I'm getting. So it's kind of walking through that. Unfortunately, in the market that we've been in, there's been fewer situations where someone's like, I love it, everything about it. But usually when they do, well, first of all, I always find when people are in love and they're ready to give everything, it's because it has probably a fabulous kitchen in it. People love kitchen. So if you put a fabulous kitchen and you can imagine, and it's, I love this home and forget everything else. I purchased a house years ago and we were under the clock because we had sold our house really quickly and we had to get into a school district in time for my kids. And we just purchased and my spouse was like, we purchased this house because of the bathroom. I know. The bathroom was gorgeous, but the rest of the house didn't really have a function. I was like, I know, we purchased because I saw it and I was like, I love this bathroom. So everybody has, their things that they love. Some people it's a yard, some people are gardeners and all that. So it might be just the plot and what they can do outside. And then for the other people that don't love it because they were hoping they were going to get more or is going to be done or they can't visualize things changing, which a lot of times in the conversations that we're having now with buyers is that, you can make your house a home over time. You're obviously going to have the memories there. You can make over time the kitchen that you want, the bathrooms that you want. If you make a plan, and it's not going to happen instantly, potentially, unless you have money that to happen instantly, but most people don't, so it's like pick a project once a year, every other year, whatever that you can manage. And then over time, it becomes the house that you love and feel comfortable in, and, make a plan for that. The house we're in now, it's like every room has to be touched, so it's, we're not going to do that all in one year, but, this year we're doing one room. So it's making plans for that. And then over time, you just grow to love this house so much because it's just your place that you've, spent so much time in, had your family members over, had your friends over. And, so there are different conversations when I'm with my buyers about what the plan is. There's some buyers that a home is fine for them. Like there's some buyers that come to me and they say, I just want to purchase a property to live in for 3 years. I have no intentions to really be there past that time. They're not really looking at it for the emotional aspect of it. They're looking at it as a financial decision. And so we look at that house a little bit differently than we would gauge a buyer for a house that they're like, oh, I want to be in this community till my kids are through high school and my kids in kindergarten now. Like that's a different buyer than person that's just coming in and just wants to be there a few years.
Makes sense. I know like when we were looking at our house, the kitchen was always a big feature, but that's also because I know that like we do, we entertain or like we'll have people over. And so having a big and nice kitchen, like even now it's like people end up in our kitchen while we're cooking or doing other things. And it's like, this isn't even the most comfortable room to sit in. And yet this is where we all congregate. So it's like
where the food is.
Yeah, it's where the food is. Right. And the drinks, the and tequila flows in our kitchen. So but it's funny too, like I hear as you're sort of sharing some of these stories is like everybody has their own features of the house, but it's like those features help you envision a future, right? And so that's again kind of that distinction between a house and how it becomes a home and how you visualize and sort of see yourself in it.
Right. And everybody has their own opinions. I mean, I have some buyers that they walk through and they're, annoyed with the bedroom sizes. And for me, I'm like, I could care less about bedroom size. Like I'm in my bedroom for this hours I'm sleeping and getting ready, and then I'm gone. So for me, it's not a big priority, but other people, they just can't like think about a bedroom being too small. Like, oh, this is just too small. It's like, I could live in a box, my bedroom could
like
be
a cage, right?
Right. I'm just going there to sleep and then I'm coming out. I would prefer more living space, but everybody has their preference on what's important to them.
Yeah, it's cool.
What's important to you, Zach? What's your favorite room in the house?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now it's our basement because we've redone it. So we got a new bathroom down there. We've got like fresh carpet, so it's just nice. But yeah, I think for me, I spend most of my time in the kitchen, but I love outdoor space. So, I put an outside deck on right away. I live in a row home in Philly, so we don't have a yard, but like next time, that's what I'm envisioning. I love hanging out outside in chairs and fire pits and things like that.
Yep. So that outside space would be important to you.
Yeah.
And I get that, I get people that live in Philly for a while and then that gets they're like, okay, now I'm ready for outside space. Like the clients I'm taking out later today, they don't want to be on a twin anymore. They said, I've done my twin days, attached to somebody, and I need a little bit more space, so they know that. And over time, your needs and wants change as we get older and right. It's just what is important to us today was totally different when we, so
yeah,
I like space as well. For me, I love a nice kitchen. I don't have the kitchen yet, but one day it's I want that custom cabinetry and a nice, kitchen.
I love I do all the not all the cooking. My wife does lunches, but I do breakfast, I do dinner.
But when you're not there.
Because I'm not there. But I really do enjoy cooking, but I want one of those big gas stoves. Right now I can't fit 4 pans on at the same time. I just want one of those really big ones,
Yeah. Oh, I love the Sub-Zero big fridges that are ginormous. Those are
we could
nice.
Climb inside. Yeah.
Yeah,
one of those would be great too.
Oh, there's so many kitchen gadgets that are nice, and I would love a nicer kitchen over time. But it just over time, make it a goal, put it on a vision board.
Yep, there it is. My in-laws, they did that. They've been at this house now for, I don't know, 20 years or more. but it was a smaller kitchen. There was a wall that was sort of separating that from the dining room. And they ended up just like renovating it, knocking out the wall, opening up the space, took a pantry, turned it into where their bigger fridge goes. They kind of did the whole thing. And it's like, it's awesome now. And they absolutely love it. Right. And it took them 15 years before they got to a place where they have the perfect kitchen. But now she's just, obviously she's happy, and my mother-in-law and just loving it. And when I'm
Yeah.
over, I cook in there and I like it too. So
And then we have the people that walk into the houses, the clients that walk in the house and immediately they go to the basement, like they're basement people. Like that's, I'm like, we didn't even see the house, but like
yeah,
they
show me the
just, and
cave, the man cave.
show me the cave. Where is that? What does that look like? And then if they don't like it, then like, I don't know about the rest of the house. I'm like, we didn't even look at the rest of the house.
It's so funny. It's
Everybody
so
has their
funny.
preferences.
It's because, again, because buyers are trying to imagine their future in that space, right? That's really what they're trying to do. Sellers, on the other hand, are holding on to the past. They've already made all their memories in their home.
Hmm.
And so then that's why, some of these pricing conversations and other things become really, really emotional. So shifting gears a little bit to talk about the sellers and what they go through, how much do you see that impact in pricing homes and how people feel attached to it versus like what's reality and how to shape for the market? Because they're placing the value of their memories, I think, in that process too, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I will say that the people that I would say own the house between 7 and 10 years, they are a little bit, actually, in my opinion, um, more stuck on the price, getting potentially an unreasonable price. Like they'll be the ones that'll say, "Oh, I researched and I saw the house down the street went for this. That's what I want, but we didn't really like. Did you look at the pictures? We have to talk them through that. Could be completely different. Could have a $50,000 kitchen in it. You don't, and we have to talk through some of those things. So I find if there's like a pricing hiccup where there might be a seller that might have an unrealistic price, it's more in that like 7 to 10 years, and maybe they're going to another next level house and they want a certain amount because that's what they want to buy the next house.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we get that. It's like, this is what I need to buy this. And the reality is what you need is not what your house is worth. Like that's important to understand. What you need is not what your, and same thing if, someone's in a jam and they're trying to get out of financial issues with their house and they're trying to sell it. What you need is not what your house is worth. I wish it was, but it's just not the reality. So, having that conversation with the buyers. And what I find is that the buyers or the sellers that have lived in the house 40 years, now they're going maybe to assisted living or something like that. They have more emotion. They've raised potentially their children. Potentially they've had grandchildren through the house, or it's been a house that's been passed down. Maybe they grew up in it. Those are the people that have a lot more emotion. So maybe they understand wanting an inspection. I find that like they're more sensitive to that because they had this house in a place where that was normal to do, and they haven't house jumped a while. They don't really see what's happening maybe in the market, and there might be a little bit more sensitivity to buyers, so every situation is different, and every seller is going to come into it with a different expectation. About managing those expectations are important.
I I'm gonna put you on the spot here, I think a little bit maybe, but are there any stories or like memories that people have shared with you about their house that like just kind of stick out, whether it was like funny or sweet or like something like that, but it was never like, oh, like, this house used to do this or we did this here or anything like that that's stuck out to you?
I mean, that sticks out to me. I should have, Zach, you should have prepped me for this so I could really. I'm sure as soon as we end this, I'll be like, oh yeah, I finally have that story.
That's fair.
No, I mean, I think I've had, let's see, this year I sold a house in Germantown that was just a family house. She grew up in it. So she grew up in it as a little girl, then left and then came back. So this house has been in the family like 60 or 70 years. So a lot, and then I think there was like 6 kids in it that grew up in it at the time. So that was a lot of just family memories, and a little bit of heartache, like when you leave that and you go to the your next chapter of life. That's some heartache. That's when you see some tears at the settlement table or things like that. But I don't think I have any funny stories off the top of my head right now.
That's okay. I can't imagine like that there would be times where people just start like dumping all of their like, secrets about the happen with inside those walls or anything. But I was like, oh, I wonder if there is anything that sticks out.
Well,
But
I always try to close my ears because what's disclosed I have to disclose. So like, don't tell me anything that's gonna be that's gonna be too much.
that's fair enough. My grandfather built this wall with toothpicks. Like,
I don't want to hear.
yeah. That's funny. It's interesting to me that having the people who have been in their home for 7 to 10 years, while they've made memories there, they're probably more inclined about around pricing and different things like that are driven more about where they want to go, right? Their next step, because, maybe that was their first starter home. So that was actually a surprise to me. But it does make sense, though, that sort of after that is when you've really just sort of settled into the space and it's super familiar now, it's a part of who you are, that becomes more and more emotional as you have to make the transition, like leaving a family home and doing that kind of stuff.
In that situation, maybe you're dealing with health. Like as people get older, they might be dealing with some health issues, or they can't do steps anymore, or they can't. So it's emotional for many reasons. It could be I'm now approaching this other part of my life, and that's emotional. Or it's I've raised everybody and now I have to give this away. So there's so many different steps when they get to a certain point. And I also think those people right now selling that are in their 80s, say, or 90s, they bought their houses for like,
Yeah,
$12,000,
$50,000.
20,000, and now it's worth whatever. And they're just thrilled. They're like, wow, look at what happened. Where 7 to 10 years, they've seen just crazy stuff in this market. So they're expecting more. And the reality is, to make the equity in the 7 years that people are seeing now in the market is huge. So we're forgetting how great that has been for the country as far as housing goes, and how people have really made money in the last 10 years pretty quickly. So you get a little bit more greed with that situation.
I can understand it. I get it. I see oh, your house could be worth this much. And I'm like, holy crap, that's insane.
I
Like,
know, right?
it's like.
Right.
But I'm at that 10-year mark right now. Like,
I know, I know. You start to think about it and all that, but
what's something that people could do, if you're helping your parents navigate that transition and moving out of the family home, like what's some advice that you could give the kids or caretakers or anybody who may be dealing with that?
yeah, it's a very emotional point, and sometimes like those, I'm speaking to someone that we're probably looking a year out because we have to clear the house and there's a lot to be done. So that type of house where there might be deferred maintenance, to no fault of anybody's, but just not unable to do things, and then clearing. Some people, they've lived there 40 years, they might have 40 years of stuff. So as a family member, and hopefully these people have family members, sometimes they don't, which makes it a little harder. But as if you do have a loved one going through it, it's really helping them eliminate as soon as possible, so that they're not in a situation where they get ill, they get stuck, and then you as a child potentially get stuck clearing all the house, because it's really, really hard on the kids. So there's companies that we work with that come in, maybe they do a few hours, and we can actually maybe have them on at one point, but they come on and they work with the client's comfort level. Some clients it's very hard for them to shed. So on those more sensitive people that are really having a hard time letting go, they might come a couple hours a week and just do a little bit at a time. And it's like a donate pile, a junk pile, a give to family members pile. And they help make it a lot easier. There's a few great companies that do that. They'll also, for houses that have a lot of stuff that potentially could be sold, they might hold sales,
Like an estate
estate
sale.
sales and stuff like that. So they have been very helpful. And some properties that people have lived in a long time, and maybe they're just at a point in their life where it's just too much work to get rid of some of this stuff. It could be too much, it could be too heavy for some people physically to do some of this stuff. So there's some great options out there that at the end of the day are not terribly expensive. There's a cost to them. So that way, if you do have family members that can help out, grandkids that could help out, I find if you have the opportunity to slowly do this so that it's not all have to be done at once, it helps. Obviously, if something happens tragically or something quick, then the family member might just have to go in and handle it. But I find, helping your loved one, when you see them at Thanksgiving and see a full house of stuff and realize they're at the last chapter of life, you might want to start helping them out because it's a lot of work.
My mother-in-law and her identical twin sister love estate sales. They go to them like all the time and find all sorts of things. I've got a 1960s Life magazine that they found with Frank Sinatra on the front. I was like, that's so cool. Like, I want it.
Well, that's the problem too in our industry. Sometimes we tour houses and like my clients won't even like the house, but like sometimes they put like for sale stuff on the like if it's an older clientele that maybe has passed on or something, they might have stuff. And I'm looking and I'm like, what could I shop for? And I'm like, this was not the purpose of me showing this house right now is to walk away with anything. Like I'm not looking to buy something right now. Get out, get out.
Seriously, it's so hard though. But like, some people got some really cool stuff. But that's also like, they had bins and bins full of Life magazines from the 1960s that they held on to for 60 years. Like
Yeah.
it's
I
crazy.
get that for the people that like People magazine, which I loved People magazine for years, but I really cut the cord with that because I
Yeah.
would like get them to not read them and then I'd have a stack of People magazines I haven't read. So I really have not done that anymore. But people like People magazines and you go to their house and there's like stacks and stacks of
Yeah.
People magazine. You're like, we got to get rid of this.
Got to do something here.
Or cans and cans of food. That's another, like sometimes we're just like stocking up for, I don't know, something.
The
And I'm like,
zombie
we
apocalypse.
gotta
Yeah.
cut back all this stuff. It's all expired too. So
Oh man, that's yeah, we've got some of those things. I'll just every once in a while go through and just start tossing stuff out. I'm like, man, this was from 25. Like that's crazy.
I know. It's kind of crazy. I tossed something the other day that it was 22 and I was like,
Yeah, yeah, it's like the spice cabinet. Some of those like coriander get buried for a while, and it's
yep. Yeah.
it's
So
cool.
helping your loved ones out really does make it easier because eventually we're all going to get to a point where we're going to need help. And I think it's also having those people that are in the houses be able to ask for help, but sometimes they don't know how to. So it's a lot of work. And listen, some people can just sell their house as is and let someone else take care of it in the market we're in right now. But you get top dollar when it's presented in the right way.
Yeah, I that makes sense. And it seems like a common thread through all of this is just it's an emotional process. Like buying
Mhm.
is emotional, selling is emotional, having to leave your family home is emotional. Like all of that is, emotions are probably really high. I mean, we're talking about a substantial amount of money, investment, receiving, giving, whatever it is, right? And so, the question really becomes then like, how do we make good decisions when our emotions are running that high? And what role does a good real estate agent play in that process too?
A real estate agent will ask the questions that need to be asked, which, sometimes it's tough to talk about someone's finances with somebody. We're not trying to, as far as I go, I'm not trying to dig into your finances and know exactly what you have, but I need to understand, do you have the funds for a new roof? Do you have, like, after closing happens, do you have it? Because, and if you don't really understand that, and if, you realize our first time home buyers, like affordability in this country is really hard right now. And, our first time home buyers, the average age last year was, we'll see what it is this year, but average age first time home buyer, 40 years old. So we're starting later because of the cost of living. most likely the cost of student loans, the cost of debts. It takes longer for all us to get into a house. So, if we're buying a house and we're putting 3.5% down on the house or 5% down on the house, that probably is means that we don't have a ton of savings. So which is okay to do that, but you just want to make sure the house that you're purchasing is not going to have any big hiccups that come up, because then if we were able to put 3.5%, 5% down, like, we're probably pretty slim, especially the year after we purchase. We're probably still trying to catch up. So just having those conversations with your clients so that they understand, maybe they're fine. Maybe they'll have access to funds if that happens. But if you're looking as a realtor at a horrible roof that doesn't look good, and you're seeing water stains in the house, and, that's pointing to potentially something coming up. So a realtor that's going to know those signs, even if the buyers waive inspections, we should be able to tell them the what ifs. What if your roof, what we see in our industry is potentially sewer lateral issues. No one thinks about it because it's an underground pipe. But if that becomes an issue and you get in your house and a few months in, you have a backup of sewage that is coming to the house, I don't think as a home buyer you want sewage in your house. Mm-hmm. So you would have to get that addressed, what that cost is approximately, and can you afford it if it comes up? Like, are you okay? Or this is I have clients now I said, get sewer lateral insurance right away. That, we're at the settlement table, we're going to order the plan so that it's a safety net just in case something comes up on that, because that's a $15,000, $20,000 job that you're going to want fixed if it needs to be. That's sort of an emergency situation. So, either knowing that they have the funds or don't have the funds as a professional, or telling them, suggesting insurance policies to protect them, and just being transparent, right? We can't just look at it as a transaction, because as a real estate professional, because they could love it, be so happy on closing day, and then a lot of house issues come up, and they're going to forget what you did as an agent. They're going to forget how they felt, because they're going to be in a really bad spot. So, warning your clients about that. I'm seeing a lot of pre-foreclosures starting to come up. We have access to that. And, I see notices just starting to hit. And those are when you see a house that only sold a couple years ago, they probably got into some sticky situations that they didn't think they were going to be in when they purchased the house. So it's our job as professionals not to just do this transaction and think, okay, I'm getting my commission and running. It's how are we going to make sure that they have made a good, sound decision.
When you think about your clients and the people that you have worked with, what would you say that you hope they remember most about their experience in working with you?
I would say I would hope that they felt heard and felt fully supported and feel confident in the decision that they made, whether it be a few years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I want them to go back and say, oh, I made a good investment. It was a smart situation. And that's what I hope they feel after our time together.
Awesome. Good. So yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from today, from everything that I've heard, is really just, it's a very emotional process, and trying to really separate this idea of house from a home and everything else as the consumer is really difficult, because it's so emotional, whether you're buying or selling, right? Because you're thinking about where your baby's going to take their first steps, or where they actually did take their first steps, right? So there's a lot of that plays into it. And so I think at the end of the day, understanding that it is an emotional process, that you have to understand the distinction between the house that you're buying and the home that you want to make, and ultimately working with a good real estate agent who is going to stay objective and help you make the right decision, not just the emotional decision, is really, really important. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from today.
Well, I love that. Yes, I agree all with it.
Oh gosh. Well, Tab, thank you so much for kind of helping us to navigate, not just this practical side, which we've talked about so many times, but also I would say the human side of this too. I think it's really important for people to understand that, like, it's okay for it to be emotional, but it's also why it's so important to work with somebody who can help you navigate that in a way and make really good decisions. So thank you. I appreciate all your wisdom again.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank all of you for listening. Hopefully this episode resonated with you in some way. Maybe you've got a parent who's transitioning, or maybe you're looking at buying, selling, whatever it may be. So if you know somebody, or if you found this interesting, please like, subscribe, share, and we'll continue to bring you real estate information that is real. And we hope to do more of that here into the future. So thank all of you, and we'll see you next time on Keeping Tabs.
See ya.